Guests here joining us here this morning, and we want to introduce Lloyd Gridscomb and also Brent West. He is the Executive Director of the High Peaks Alliance, and I'd like to welcome both of you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And you're you are on the board. I'm sorry, your title?
Yes, I'm a co-founder, and along with Roger Lambert, Tom Saviello introduced Roger Lambert and I. He was the master main guide from Strong.
Yeah.
Said you guys need to speak, and
Yeah.
so we co-founded the High Peaks Alliance 17 years ago.
17 years ago. So this is your second trip. You've been here before, huh?
Thanks to
you've
Nadine,
done this.
yes.
Yeah, with Nadine, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you had mentioned a project that you're working on, but let's talk about the High Peaks Alliance, what its purpose is first, and we'll begin with that.
Sure. You know, our major goal is just to keep this area wild and accessible. And that is because a lot of land is privately owned, and we all love to use it, and we're very thankful for the private landowners. But a lot of these places we have lost access to.
Yeah.
You know, in my short life, we've lost access to over 100,000 acres just in this neck of the woods, as far as gates up, posted signs, stuff like that. So our goal is really to help conserve access, offer new access, build trails, and engage the community in that work.
Now, why do you think that that you have lost access? Can you comment on that, or is that information you don't?
Well, I think in Maine we've had a social contract for access, and that started back when everyone worked in the forestry industry. All the employees and community members used to show up at the mill, and the mills owned a lot of the land, and it was a good handshake agreement. You know, in exchange for access, you know, the community took care of the land, but also everyone was locally based. Since the 90s, most of the mills have closed in the area, and most of those communities have fallen apart in southern Franklin County, and recreation's starting to replace that, but all the land now is, a lot of the land has changed hands, and the people who have bought the land haven't been privy to that long-term social contract. So I think part of it's an education issue, but other parts of it are new uses. Like within the last 30 years, ATVing has gotten really big. There's been all these different uses. So there's just an increased need to manage it all because more people are coming here to enjoy it.
Yeah, and as land changes hands, they probably don't know of the rich history that we've had of people being very gracious about using their.
Or even Maine's, like, we have one of the strongest landowner liability laws. You know, if you go out on someone's land and accidentally hurt yourself, the landowner's never liable. So that's been a strong protection in Maine that promotes that private access.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
So this is a part two. Your guide that you came out, this is a brand new. Tell us about what people will find in this, because there's a lot of great information and where they can find this.
Yeah, so the State of the High Peaks is a project, a long-term project of the High Peaks Initiative, which is 12 different NGOs, nonprofits that work collaboratively to conserve some of these awesome mountains and offer access. You know, so many partners: Maine Appalachian Trail Land Trust, Trust for Public Land. We have Greater Franklin Development, and it's all listed in the book. But what we've tried to do is look at all the recreational assets we have in this region, which we call Farmington kind of the gateway to the High Peaks, and it flows up through Rangeley and Sugarloaf. Sure. And over the last year, this report has documented over 130 locations of either official, unofficial, you know, official trails on private land, and documented all those and try to get a sense of what the condition of those. So the idea is the ones that are unprotected, we can protect. So examples like in Route 4, you're driving up Route 4, there's a beloved spot called the Blue Ledges. They've done archaeological digs there. They've shown people have used that spot for 8,000 years.
Wow.
So if you have a place on the ground that we're still using after 8,000 years, maybe that's worthwhile setting aside for the next generation.
Maybe so, huh?
You know, and so that's what we think, and we hope people can use that to realize there's a lot to be taken for granted up here, and we're the group that you can join if you want to make sure there is something to pass down to the next generation.
Were there any surprises in any of these areas? Did you discover anything that you didn't know prior to this?
Well, there are lots of surprises that come from if you haven't failed, if you haven't given up, and so if you just keep moving, you'd be amazed the support you can find
Yeah.
to take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah.
Well, there's one surprise I had was there on the south peak of Mount Abram. There's a cairn that we found because we bushwhacked up there. Like that has to be a good overlook, and we found this cairn that was 7 feet tall, and
What's a cairn?
it's a stack of rocks that helps people navigate on top of mountains.
Yeah.
But we found that, and 67 years prior, one of our supporters had a picture of himself next to it. So that's another example of like all these
Dave
undiscovered
Field from
places
the Appalachian Trail.
that we just keep rediscovering and that are just incredible places to go. And so, you know, long term, if we can build the support, we're going to make some great new trails. We're going to have more permanent access, and that's the goal.
Yeah. So the data that you have, it tracks the interests of people in different towns, correct? Like the report that they just did here, that they're not quite done yet in Carrabassett Valley, people got a chance to say what recreation they enjoy and what they like to do. Is that the data that you digest? And
So we've looked at it a little differently. I like to say the best proof of community support is how well worn the trail is. And so instead of going out and asking people, what do you like? We wanted to see what has been well liked and well loved for a long time. So the big trends are you have to know about it first. So that's why places like Tumbledown, which is incredibly beautiful,
Right.
gets an incredible amount of use.
Right.
Like this spring, we're going to put out a Scenic 7 guide, a hiking guide, and that's to kind of disperse some of that use. And so there's also, our approach is that a lot of the conservation groups have mapped ecological data really well, like where are the salmon, where are the brook trout, where are the Bicknell's thrush, but surprisingly they don't have good data for where humans like to use it, where the people like to go, and so that's
Interesting.
something we get to share. Like we've mapped over 1,700 miles of trails, including motorized trails, and so we have a great understanding of what makes up the whole recreation network in the high peaks.
right. So
So
this,
the one quick surprise, the Kennebec has got Atlantic salmon that have been propagated, and they've gone out to sea and come back, and they've been recorded, and that's like stunning to me.
that's great.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So some of these people, some of these places perhaps are on the rebound, as you mentioned there. This is very comprehensive. There's a lot of great information in here. And tell us a little bit about this. What's this right here?
So for all 130 locations that we surveyed, our technician that we hired for a year ranked them based on what the overall experience was, aesthetics, was it handling, the use it had well right now. And we found most trails in the area are probably of average rating. Like they have some issues, but they have a lot of good aspects to them too. So that also, we've collected pictures and GPS of every trail that we monitored and looked at. So that should all be helpful moving forward in
Absolutely.
conservation planning.
Absolutely. This looks like it was a lot of work.
That was the project's been a couple of years, but we had a full-time staff, best job in the world. I always said he got to go out at least 200 days in the field
Yeah.
for a year, and the rest was the computer time. So he was outside more than not, but just to really get a handle of every single nook and cranny, every overlook, every waterfall, every private trail,
Yeah.
public trail, and so what we've published is a compilation of the findings.
Well,